John Salvitti, how are you?
Good, Scott. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And to you, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for joining me on The Art of Action. You had a life in the world of action and the world of martial arts, and I can't wait to hear you talk about it, especially the Hong Kong stuff, because that's a big favorite of mine.
Go back to 1989, 89. Yeah, 1989, my first trip, my first flight ever even on an airplane, thanks to Donnie Yen.
So, John, can you tell us what's your martial arts background?
I walked into my first academy at age 10, and it was pancration, like a Greek, more of a very traditional pancration. Wasn't as modern as it became through Pride and through some of the stuff you see with MMA fighters. But it was grappling and striking, sort of a gentle art approach. It wasn't quite like judo.
So, pancration is mostly like wrestling.
Yeah, a lot of
Right?
wrestling, a lot of technique grappling, but then there was quite a bit of striking in there. But his emphasis was on the gentle side of it, almost like a judo, where we didn't want to blast each other so much. There was a lot of shoving and pushing, and
Yeah.
it was pretty strange for me at the time. I was only 10, 11 years old when I was getting deep into that. By the age of about 13, 14, though, I went to my first tournament, and I saw a gentleman named Lou Hopkins, who became like a second dad. That's the guy who we all
Okay.
had that instructor, Scott, right? I believe we all did. He
Mm.
was the one who just made me believe more in myself. I mean, the love for martial arts was already there, but I was a little 120-pound kid, graduated high school, and it was hard, you know what I mean? With the big, I had big thick glasses, and Donnie, he used to tell
Yeah.
me, you got to get some contacts going, like for my training. I hadn't had contacts, I just take them off, and I couldn't see too well when I would train and compete and everything. But so then
Yeah.
it was on to East Coast, which is a hard style Shotokan karate. The cool thing with Lou Hopkins' school, though, was that he was big into kung fu training too. So he would, for some of our kata work, he would bring in some of the kung fu stuff that he was doing in Chinatown with an academy called Walam at the time. So, which is an academy I became an instructor at many years later. But
Okay.
just to stay on track, yeah, it went from the pancration to hard style Shotokan karate, which filtered slowly into the kung fu, and then of course, seeing Donnie on the cover of Inside Kung Fu when I think that was 81, 82, right around there, and I was like, whoa, like he's in these poses and his eyes are looking, and I was just like almost manifesting it, Scott, honestly. And we went to a show in Boston, and we saw the CWRI do a demonstration with Walam, right? Because my instructor was connected with Walam. So, anyways, more of the story is we saw it when they introduced Donnie Yen to come on the stage. My instructor turned to me and he said, "You're gonna train with that guy one day." I was 15 years old. I almost started like getting a little choked up because I love this
Yeah.
man who's telling me this, you know. And then yeah,
And so, what was Donnie at that time known as a martial artist or a film
I didn't
star?
pay any attention to that, honestly, and it was all about seeing him come on the stage and just take a broadsword, chasing wind broadsword. I remember the name of it to this day. And he was like the freaking wind out there. I mean, he
Yeah.
just lit it up. I mean, we were all doing what we thought was, amazing. We were doing amazing martial arts. We project, we I don't want to say that all these martial arts, to me, they're all very amazing, right? And they're fantastical to a kid at my age. But when he came out, it was just like I was like literally blown out of my seat, as well as the whole
Yeah.
audience erupted when he was finished.
So this was like a wushu demonstration with a
Yeah,
broadsword.
he did it his way, right? And I learned that later. That he added his flavors to things. He would follow the route of these movements and these amazing skills, that he had and that were taught and learned, and even from his mom. And the CWI Academy, we had a lot of guys in there that were training like from the 70s when the wushu teams came over from China. There was a lot of us, a lot of the guys in Chinatown now trying to get those stretch kicks and those how to get to that level. But
Yeah.
Donnie, amazing. And then he was throwing taekwondo kicks on the side, and he was boxing already, and he was lifting weights, and
Oh yeah.
he
Great physique.
loves martial arts. I mean, through and through.
So you went to his mom's school. basically.
Yes, 2 years before Donnie ever arrived. He was off.
Oh,
He did do his first movie, Mismatched Couples, and then Drunken Tide. Because I remember when he came back, I hadn't met him yet. His father said, "Just train. He'll be here someday."
yeah.
So I'd go back to do my Shotokan. I was fighting and still competing, and then I was running into Chinatown on the trains and buses, and waiting and waiting, and then after all this time, he showed up and he was just. I remember him just walking up to me one day and goes, "Oh, you really train hard." He goes, "You really love this?" And I go, I love martial arts." And he said, "Yeah, we should train one of these afternoons." And that was like back then. You got to remember, like Shaolin Temple had come out, and I must have seen that 18 times in the theater. And by then, my instructor Louis Hopkins was already taking us to Chinatown every Saturday afternoon. No man left behind. No woman left behind. It was like, if you didn't have money, he paid for you to go. They'd take us to Chinatown to eat after. And that was right around that when Shaolin Temple hit. Like I thought I had the best of the best standing in front of me, Donnie Yen, and I'm thinking, I feel like I'm in the Shaolin Temple. I seriously thought, like, this is the master. Like,
Yeah.
what do I do? And we started kicking and training, and it just took off from there. And then my glasses would fly off, and you got to fix this up, and you got to be ready for anything. And he would tell me about just some of the things that he went through in his first film, and it was like, you're slipping around on the floor in Hong Kong. The dew comes up in the wee hours of the night, and you're like, you got to do all this. And I was like, wow, how could you do that? He goes, without a fight, you got to be able to do it in a fight. And I was like, yeah, you do. And we were a hand in a glove for quite a few years in there.
How long were you training with Donnie before you got involved in any of the film stuff with him?
Probably good 4 or 5 years, I think. About 4 years, maybe. And he started, teaching me a lot of the traditional stuff, like the eagle claw and the broadsword. He covered every single sphere, right? Long weapon, short weapon, hand to hand stuff. And then it was starting to get into like all the mitt work and the kicking and the punch and sparring. Started getting me into a little bit of weight training, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was the thing where he's preparing me for what was to be, as far as just the being under the duress of the Yun brother clan, because I'll tell you, it's gone. You needed that pinpoint accuracy with everything. If you had to hit him, everything had to be perfect, and as you know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's high pressure situation, as we well know.
Yeah. And then I was this little kid, 20-something years old, and I'm like, all the way away. And I'm like, and you just don't want to let anybody down. I think that's.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm looking forward to hearing about it. I love this stuff. So have you rehearsed the fight, or are you learning it on the set?
On the spot, yeah.
Yeah.
On the spot.
And this is your first time doing this. Have you, as like Donnie, like back in Boston, have you played around doing some sort of like film fighting stuff?
Like Donnie, I know for sure that he was already not channeling, but he was already preparing, he was already kind of preparing me, and anybody he would bring into a film, he preps and prepares you. And we were so close, and he was so passionate about filmmaking already that he was already like, it was just fun to hear him talk about it, and how it was going to be. But not just even, passionate is almost an understatement. The man was, even back then, he was intense. If you learn Eagle Claw or Tong Long or any kind of martial art from Donnie, you get a sense of like just how explosive it would be if you're on a film set. Imagine just in the academy training.
Are you cool enough with Donnie that you can lay it in and it's going to be fine?
Not just cool enough, but he said, dude, I don't want you to be kicking me all day. Kick me here. Let's get it done.
That's very important, isn't it? Because he knows that you can do it like half-heartedly and we're going to do it 10 times. But if you do it once really good, we're done.
We're good. Yeah, we are good. And him the same. That I learned from him the same, right? So I'd say, okay, I'm good. Just throw it. Because I knew that he was saving us. He was saving us from what he knew he was saving us from. You don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know. And I was like, this is okay. Let's do that. And then here's when they brought in a little bit of the point fighting stuff. But when they keep saying more power, I'm like, next thing you know, it's spreading all over the place.
Right, hang on. Who's come up with this idea then with the crazy hands?
I would say Donnie said, give me a little bit of that way you fight when we spar and stuff, right? So because I move a little bit, and he liked it. But then What Yo Ping see, that his translation was more power, and my understanding of more power was yes, you know what I mean, Scott? So I got a little too wild, and if I would have known about dubbing and sound effects, I might have taken it down.
It's good though. It's very memorable.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, Scott.
It's crazy stuff, but all good. Oh my God, that kick he does there.
Yeah.
Ah, flipping hell.
That was one of the hardest things to do there, Scott.
So how many takes?
That was a hard one because I had to run in, duck, and then he stutter steps and he hits me. And that was we did quite a few takes on that one.
How many do you think? I know it's a long time ago, but
I always want to say it was like 10 takes maybe.
Yeah.
I was messing it up. There was a lot of timing involved.
Right.
Yeah, there was a lot of, this was cool. This was simple stuff. Donnie just laid in, it was easy, you know. His precision and pinpoint accuracy, he's had it all the way through, right? So it was, and then coming up is the area. This one here was the toughest one. This took about 10 takes, believe it or not. I had to move on these angles and take these shots. Yeah. So boom, I said, oh man, he said to me, I'm gonna have to really hit you with the spinner back kick. I mean, he lays off though. I mean, he breaks a bag in half. So if he really was gonna hit me with everything he had, I'd have probably been in the hospital. I would have been in the hospital actually. I've seen him bend a heavy bag. So I said, just don't put me in the hospital.
I mean, obviously I've never witnessed him back kick full power because when I worked with him, he didn't back kick me, but the years of watching him perform, he has visually the best back kick in cinematic history. I mean, nobody does it better.
Very cool, yeah.
Right.
Pinpoint accuracy with just enough power. But back then, you know, you didn't want to mess it up, and you said, just throw it, you know, just throw it in. And he always said to me, you got to get the modern filming with us later on, you know?
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
There's that back kick again.
Boom. Yeah.
I just love, that's what I love about Yuen Woo-ping. It's those, he's always trying to get side on to the action. So you're seeing punches connect from almost like the profile. And that's what I love about Yuen Woo-ping, man.
Me too. And coming off that wall right there, I had to be taught how to bounce off of a wall, Scott. I was literally throwing myself into the wall at first and just hitting the concrete hard. And then one of the cool little stuntmen on the set, this little dude, one of the Yun brothers, and he just come over and said, you have to hit the wall and bring your chest forward, not just go, oh, I was trying to just explode off of the wall. I hit that wall hard a bunch of times. That was
you come forward hard into that stomach punch.
Yes. Just giving it all. You really just want to give it all, right? You know?
Yeah.
And then I knew the end was coming. And you know, when the end is coming, it's almost like the Super Bowl. Like, you know, you're going to win the game. Like, we're going to win the game. We were good. And they were happy. You know, when you see Yuen Ping smiling and his brothers and like, yeah, this was the final kick. And I had to take that kick. Yeah.
You took that and it's right to the guts.
He said he's going to send me down far enough to sell that next cut, which made it a little easier. Because, you know, you could have did that in one take, right? So.
How long did you shoot that fight?
Without any rehearsal at all. So we did it as we went. I'm going to think it was like 6 days, maybe 7 days, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. In and around there. But we had days where, you know, as you know, Scott, now, like, you know, when you work with Yuen Ping and everybody and Donnie, and there's some days that are a little lighter. So when you expand these days out, we have to give a little notification that some of those days you might not have worked more than really a couple of hours because you're banged up, and then you take a day to recoup. So even if it was a little more, maybe even if it's 8 or 9 days, like you're not going like a 15-round fight. You're just slamming each other for 15 rounds. You get the luxury of it the beauty of it is you get to live to fight another day. So
that's the luxury of making a film in Hong Kong or China. They really give you time to do the action the right way. Whereas I wouldn't have that luxury on one of my films in America. I've got to go whatever the case. But having said that, on Ip Man 4, I remember coming in on day 3, and day 3 is always the worst, right? Body-wise, you're like, oh God, you get up in the morning and you're killing. And I remember walking in and, you know, we've got stunt doubles arranging the next part of the fight, and then we perform it. And as I'm walking in the morning, I see my stuntman just doing all these aerial kicks. And I remember thinking, Not today.
Right? And it stretches the day, and then you could gear up for
Yeah.
the next day, kind of. So you do lose some time in there, but it's so crucial so your body can recoup. It's like you get an ice bath, and you can recoup for a day, and now you're
Yeah.
ready to go on day 4. You're ready to just explode. So yeah, that's what you were doing, obviously. Yeah.
Well, you go and do a film in America, and generally, if somebody's throwing a straight punch and you're slipping it, generally the person who's throwing the punch is already veering off to the side. But in Hong Kong, it's no,
Yeah.
straight to my face, and if he doesn't move, then it's his fault, and that's the way it's
years
done.
long, lifelong martial artists. We have to deliver. We deliver though.
Yeah. Now, Donnie told me that when he did films back in the day, and I was thinking of In the Line of Duty and those movies, that they didn't get the dailies till the next. They didn't have video playback, and I was like, what? They didn't have video playback. So he said that they had to do it time and time again, even though they thought they had it. Maybe we better do it a few more times just in case we don't, because we're not going to get the dailies for a couple of days. Is that true?
100% true. Yes. Yeah. And like you kind of know in your feeling in your gut, like we got this at take 3 or 4. So there would be moments where you have to go a little more, like a few more takes. And again, that is the kind of not to say that it's not a luxury to have 7, 8, 9 days to shoot a scene, but there's a lot that goes into that. And it is that's one of the big things is, well, we're going to do another one. And then it's a bad take, maybe take 6. And you're like, I'll do one more. And then it turns into 8 or 9. And
yeah. You've done take 6 and you're like, I think it was okay, but maybe we can do a better one. And then by the time you got to take 10, you've been doing them worse than before. But now you already set your mind up. We've got to do another one.
yeah, exactly. But you're getting a great workout though, right? You're soaking wet underneath if you got a jacket on, oh my God, a blazer or whatever, you're drenched. I gotta tell you, I gotta lay all the credit to Donnie teaching me how to work with a sword, number one. And he just kind of following his lead on this whole thing. I didn't really even know what was going on. I didn't know how they were gonna drape my jacket off. They wired it with I think little fishing twines or something here. Look at that thing float.
Yeah, I never noticed that before.
I was like, what am I doing here?
How they're doing the sparks?
The sparks, they had me connected. I mean, I had a little burn mark on my back. They had a battery following me with a 9-volt attached to the bottom of the sword, like a little wire that you can't see it, but it's very small little wire, and it's connected to a battery that when you touch the metal, it'll make a spark, right? So I felt the heat of because it was going up my arm like that,
And is that the same with when the swords connect?
Yes, yeah, right there's a battery.
Right.
And I got the cable, it goes like behind. When we're striking, not only do I have to, like for instance, strike there with a spark, but I have to strike in a way because I don't want you to see it's like this. It runs it back behind your arm and you feel the heat of it because it gets hot really quick. And I'm like, I remember burned a couple of times, like right there, you can't see the cord, but it's there,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another cord with the 9-volt battery. And then it's all Donnie and me. And like Donnie basically, again, it's like, hey, that the whole way we trained when we trained in Boston, it's all being applied. It's all real pinpoint accuracy. And I took from Donnie's lead on everything, right? So he just said, man, you got to come at me. Some of those slices are really freaking close. Like you wouldn't have to really do that today because the camera might be a little positioned and you just with it, but they would place it. And yeah, I mean, I'm like within inches sometimes with us, and I'm swinging with everything I got.
Is the fence pre-cut?
Yeah, that fence was pre-cut. Yeah. It's a real
again with the sparks.
Yeah, again, battery cable. It's funny because a lot of this stuff is the easier stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find the times that I've used the weapons, and I'm no weapons expert, not at all, but I do find it a bit easier on the body because you're not clashing bone on bone, are you? But of course, you've got to be a lot more safe because you don't want to stick that in somebody's eye.
It's really cool when the interviewer is a guy who really is at a high level and he's being very humble. But Scott, your weapon work, your movement, it's all we understand. But it's a film, right? So yeah, the bone on bone stuff, I'll agree that it makes it a little easier for sure.
It's nice to have something that you're connecting with that isn't
Yeah.
attached to your body. Yeah, it's a nice bit of choreo there, isn't it? This bit.
Yeah, nice wide open, just go. Yeah. Yeah. Look at Donnie's movement. You see Donnie's footwork there? How he's using those angles? Look at the angles. I mean, people would never see that footwork there. That's angles, and look at the movement.
Oh, yeah, to the side.
It's so hard to do.
Now, I don't want to give away any secrets. Tell me to shut up. But is he jumping off anything when he does this jump, or is he jumping off the floor, or do you remember?
He got a little. He may have had a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Which we all get, but yeah, a little bit of help.
You may as well. It's filmmaking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's the magic of filmmaking.
Yeah.
But it teaches you, though. It teaches you. You don't really. Oh, one thing about that though is you don't really know what things are going to look like until you see the dailies or the rushes, as we say, right, in Hong Kong. So, and we don't see them for a couple of days later. You're not sure how it's going to look. So you're like, did we get it? Did we?
Yeah.
But look at those sparks flying, man.
Well, is that real? Is the spark there real?
Yeah.
Yeah. It had to be done in camera in those days, right?
Everything was with the. Donnie had the battery cable too a few times attached. So
hang on a minute. Let me ask you this. For this section, you're really swinging the swords hard, and then it doesn't like that. Weren't you worried that the battery cable was going to come loose?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it did come loose at times. Yeah. We had to retake at times for that.
Oh, I love this bit.
Oh yeah, he was blasting me there. That was nice.
Amazing legs.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, Scott. Right? Look at the accuracy. Just bam, boom, boom. Very light touches, by the way. He didn't even. I mean, I didn't feel the pain and all that.
That's a crazy kick.
Double action. No touch. Look at the accuracy. It's on. It looks like he's tearing my head off. Yeah. So what I was going to say was when I was coming off the pole in the air and I was chopping down at Donnie, that was the angle. But that's when I clipped him. Because I did it like 8 or 9 takes, and Donnie said, "Dude, you got to get closer. You're not close enough." And I was like, "Man, I mean, it was angry. Honestly, for a second there, I was like, I was getting upset because I was like, I knew I was so close. It's a flick of the sword, but it's like, ah! And then I hit him. I went, bah! And I remember he just looked at me and said, "You freak, you hit me." Yeah. I said, "I knew I was gonna." It touched, and the old pig yelled out, "Ah!" Like loud, and I was like, what did he want me to do? Like I had to actually hit my friend, So that was a moment where I hit him.
Amazing stuff. How many days for that fight, would you say?
I think we did that over the course of about 8-9 days.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Good amount of time.
Good length fight.
Paced out, again, not too much per day. Some days were heavy, some days were a little lighter. We were doing that overnight. So there was a lot of mist in the air. I think it rained a couple of times. So it was you had to kind of, go at the pace of the production, which they allowed us. They gave us all the time that we kind of needed, I think. For back then, I was like, wow, this is cool. But it was a pressure situation, definitely pressure cooker, I had a dojo in North Hollywood and I shut it down. And I said, I got to learn after the first UFC in '93. Right. I literally shut down. I was training with Gokor Shivakian and Judo Gene LaBelle at that point. Getting snapped and cracked. Judo Gene was crazy. Trained Bruce Lee, which I thought was also a very surreal thing, right? Pat Johnson was over there. The who's who was at that academy in Hollywood. Right. And that's where I started. And that's where I started automatically just kind of telling Donnie a little bit about MMA, and it was still it was new and it was in the UFC still. It was like, it was those early days, right? And then so that's kind of where I believe it was really manifested from. And it was from there on that when Donnie was as he processed everything, and he's processing it from another place too with camera, right? He always said this has to be done right. He would tell me, and he knew, and he started training. We always trained together, so we were just like, it was normal to just train together. And Scott, it's all Donnie because after he did SPL. And he had asked me I was on the phone with him a lot during that film. He asked me to come over, and I forget why. I had just bought my first house, and I remember being in LA, and I couldn't do it. And he was like, "We're gonna wrestle a little bit. We're gonna do this and do that." I go, he had it all. Like he knew where he was gonna go. So by the time we got to the Flashpoint, I was training him, and the whole thing with training Donnie was just like we would joke around. He loved Vitor Belfort. He just liked that whole And I think he might have been channeling that. I can't speak for him, but we were like Chuck Liddell. I was holding mitts for like weeks. We were on the ground for weeks in rehearsals. We didn't do pre-visual work, but it was sort of like that, the choking and the different techniques. And then to tell you the truth, I mean, you got to give credit to where it's due. We had a large team, and we had some judo guys and different people that come in, and that's why you saw what you saw. Flashpoint, like I said, he encapsulated the whole thing. And by that time, it was ready to be like the Super Bowl game, the big game. And he just took it and ran with it. We had done the work in the rehearsals. That special ID was where Donnie said, okay, I want you to be more 100%. I was 100% hands-on. I was involved in every single scene. And I really felt like we there was some things that were left on even whether it was rehearsals or with the way things went down on Flashpoint. So it was like, for my part, I was like, let's go delve a little deeper, like all this stuff here. Yeah, I mean, I would just literally just play like the other guy a lot of times, and Donnie would say, you be him during rehearsals, and we did a lot of rehearsals on the set, right? And then like Ken Lo would just jump in and do it. It was fun to work with Ken Lo too. Like I remember him with Jackie, and he's an icon in his own right? So it was fun to.
I love that bit there where he punches his head here. He's like, have this.
The cool. And you know what's cool here? It's very right out of playbook Jiu-Jitsu MMA 101, right? We rest on our opponents a lot, partly because we're tired, partly because we're looking like a chess match. Where's my next moment where I'm gonna, take a Kimura or an armbar, or how am I gonna choke this guy, take his back?
Yeah, this bit here is really interesting. I mean, you see it in the UFC a lot.
Man. Yeah. I said, you know what, brother? His movement. You channel all that, and Donnie was having a blast. Donnie just said, I'm going here. I'm going to be messing with it. Look at him. Yeah. We got a lot of fun, man. I felt like I was in one of my first jiu-jitsu tournaments. All this, look at this stuff of course, Donnie's setting up everything. You know that, right? All the shooting, all the editing, all the camera work.
I don't know how many people know, but there was a point in Donnie's career where, I don't know, he wasn't starring in as many films at one point, and he was behind the camera as an action coordinator for a lot of films that he didn't even appear in. So, I mean, we know just by that he's amazing at what he does behind the camera.
Yeah.
The kitchen fight is amazing, man. It's like the scrappiness of it, the realism that you guys are bringing to it. That's what I love about the Flashpoint stuff. It's so kinetic and real. That knee that he catches the guy in the face with. Oh, it's so good. Bang. But it's chaos. It's beautiful chaos.
It's poetic chaos. It really is.
Yeah.
All this stuff was really like nerve-wracking in a way, because I was like, what? How are you going to fight against all these knives and everything? I remember just grabbing that cloth and I said, we got to use the environment a little bit more, that's how we can get out of this. It was like almost like a survival mode.
Is this a rubber fist or is it real?
I don't remember that being a rubber fist. No.
That's just real. And that's not a rubber head.
Yeah. He hit that dude. And, that's one thing about the when you're in the Super Bowl, that's when, even in pro sports, right? They'll take the big hit, right? This is the Super Bowl, right? You're working with Donnie Yen. You're working with the iconic, the legend guy. You're like, okay, Super Bowl. You're like, let's deliver. We give ourselves up, right? I mean, that's what we do, right? It's a Super Bowl. You don't do it during the regular season games, right? You do it during the freaking.
Oh yeah, you listen. You've got to give it up. You got to give it up for the gods of action. This is what we're here for.
Gods of action.
I've been hit. It's necessary. We're martial artists. We can take a licking. And if some lovely stuntman offers me a head to kick, I'll be as nice as I possibly can be. But at the end of the day, it looks so good. Now, I don't know what it is about this movement that he does here, but something about these three kicks. Bang, doof, whack.
It's beautiful.
Love that.
It's all Donnie. It's from the action directing standpoint, right? I'm going to have this shot, then you watch what I do. He would tell me many times during working with him. Watch what I'm going to do. Yeah. I learned. You learn. Look at that. Just over the carts. The floor was slippery, by the way. It was, greasy. It was a real kitchen. Those are real pieces of meat that were hanging there. It was a hot pot place.
What's happening there? Is that just real?
I mean, he's touching him. He's touching him. But you got to remember, Donnie, his pinpoint accuracy, he's not really hitting him that hard, you know, on that particular shot. He will light it up if he's got to, but I've been hit by him many times, and sometimes it's going to be a little more painful than others. Sometimes it looks like it's super painful, and it's really not. It's really not. Here's a nice moment that we take a breather, right? Almost back to the whole jujitsu, right? And you know, when the like the great, Hicks and Gracie would tell me, take a breather, man, relax. You know, the jiu-jitsu, it's a chess match. Don't chase it. Don't be the mousetrap, he would say. Let the mouse come. So that's what we did here. And look at this moment here. Look at this beautiful pause. It's like the freaking New York City Ballet. It doesn't get much better. And then the hand to the face, right? Did you see that, Scott? That's just a moment I said, I'll rest on this man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at that. Cool. It's just a simple, and then boom. Then back to the wrestling, and it's double leg power, boom, and then yeah. This movie taught me a lot too, though. It taught me to believe in myself more too, Scott. Channeling through Donnie. And we could talk a little bit about the differences between why the Hong Kong and why Pound of Flesh would be the way it is. Because I heard some things from like different people that were saying, "Wow, look at Pound of Flesh; it's still the same guy, John Salvitti. Look at the difference in the action." But it's a little unfair because, like, as you know, we did those fights in 3-4 hours on Pound of Flesh.
Well, tell us about it. Yeah, that's the difference, isn't it?
I mean, that's one of the big differences. Yeah, and just to be clear though, like yourself, Scott, and I've heard and I know from when I talked to Donnie about Ip Man 4 and when he was here in LA, and oh yeah, the mentality and the professional manner and the giving of yourself, Scott, which we all saw, the beauty in Ip Man 4 and even all the other stuff, Boinka and everything, yeah, I mean, let's say it, gotta say it. Man. So, here you are now, I'm working with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I didn't want to come too hard, and I was obviously thankful he had to sign off on me, but it was hours shooting fights. It was not to go through the wall. It was like, you're looking at like El Capitan and Yosemite, and you got to just go up it. Don't go through it, right? I was kind of going through it a little bit with him, and I realized, no, it's not going to work. I got to go up. And as you go up, you see the beauty start to happen, right? So he opened up, and we got to get him to do more than we just got to get him to come out of himself a little bit and to do a little bit more, because it could be hard to get him to sign off on things.
Hey guys, you don't look like tourists.
Well, I love just kicking the door here.
This whole scene was literally come to me at like 3 a.m. I woke up one night and I said, we got to get the splits going. See here, Scott, the door with the frame, I had to have a special car because I knew that door frame was going to be the tie-in for the rear naked choke, right? If you didn't have a door frame on that car, you can't tie in the rear naked choke, which attaches Van Damme to the car, to his opponent. So there's a lot going on. But I also knew that I could shoot it in 3 hours or 4 or 5 hours. I think we did this in 4 or 5 hours. We got the man to get back to the splits in a different way, right? I didn't want to have him on the chairs.
He's not brought back the splits for quite some time.
Yeah,
so he did well to get it out of him.
I had to get it out, Scott. It came at 3 a.m. and I said to him, I wrote it down, and I met with Ernie at a cafe like the next day. I said, I think I found a way to maybe if you want to bring the splits back. And he looked at me and he said, yeah. And I pitched it, I pitched the whole scene. It was already there. The gun, everything. I said, we can trap. There's so much like, MMA going on here. Like when I say MMA, I mean all of it, like Kung Fu even, the striking, the karate, all the martial arts, right?
But just look at that. So that's a rubber fist there, is it?
Yeah, I think we did one without it, Scott, but let's not tell too many people that, okay? I got to give some love to just the leader because he was like, just...
Next time, I want to be the one that punches Mike in the face, okay?
I think he'll oblige.
Yeah, I think he will as well.
Absolutely.
He loves it.
He does. He does. With the Bible, yeah. It's funny because then I saw the book pop out and John Wick later, and I was like, okay, we did some cool stuff. It was violent though. I was working with the stunt guys. We had a little. I hadn't had Brahim just yet either. So it was like, he was in the club seen later, but I did my pre-visual. I just had these like 6 guys, local guys in China, you know, and it was all again based on action reaction. It's almost like this, Scott. If you put your hands together, you really can't tell which hand's pushing, but you know, you learn that it's my right's pushing harder, and you go from that. If it's trapping the Bible, his hand on the bar, it's his reaction to pull back where, oh, you hit him with the book, right? So it's all based on that invisible, like the great Hickson Gracie says, it's invisible jujitsu, right? I didn't understand that then, but the last 4 or 5 years, 6, 7 years, I've been starting to understand that invisible, that pressure, which actually is the action, the reaction. And that's where the Kung Fu comes in. So many people say, oh, the Kung Fu doesn't work in the cage, whatever. You know what? It's illegal. You can't take somebody's eyes out. You can't gouge. You can't soft you can't hit the groin. I'm just saying.
You get a point taken off you for that.
Yeah, you get a point taken away.
Yeah.
When it's a finishing move, right? In the real world, it's a finishing move. And so that action reaction stuff, I started to really, for the Van Damme movie, and it worked great, Scott, because we only had hours to shoot the fights. The ending fight, we had like 1 day. We had a little more time for sure. And Ernie said, go up there, and we're running out of time. So he let me shoot a lot of that stuff, which was really cool, you know. So I just went up there, grabbed the camera. We had a splinter crew, me, Mike Leader, the great Darren Shalavi, Dazzler, you know. Yeah.
Oh,
love
man.
him. Love him.
Yeah.
Love
We got to
him.
talk about Darren. Yeah. Miss Darren.
Fantastic man, you know. I met him in Hollywood before we did the film. He said, I'm so excited. He was just gonna give himself, Scott, right? Like we do, you know. He embellished, I mean, all this stuff. I got a good chance to have those cameras, you know, get myself a little experience there too as a second unit guy, Scott, you know. Yeah. They called us the action unit, but Ernie was very, very kind. And just a humble and also a confident man. He's like, come on, let's get it done if you have to. So we did some good work, and then he came up and he also tidied up and buttoned everything for us. You know, I had some ideas here for even another little split piece, like an X guard get underneath them and spread them out. I do that a lot in jiu-jitsu. I wanted to do some head posting here where you lift them up and his head's on the ground posting, but we had I lose a lot in the editing, you know. I got in my contract 8 hours of editing, you know. I'd love to spend, you know, 10, 15 days, you know, in the editing room just cutting around the clock.
Love to have final cut.
So I got 8 hours. So we cleaned a little bit here and there, but yeah, some nice stuff, some nice visuals, you know, for a scene that we did in hours, you know.
Yeah, no, it's cool, man.
It breaks your heart, like it kind of.
Well, you're always bringing the realism and the real application of the martial arts, which is fantastic. And any real martial artist obviously appreciates it.
That's sweet, man. That's sweet. I appreciate that, Scott.
So what is your daily martial arts training these days then, John? Jiu-jitsu
2 days a week, stand-up, sparring lightly. I'm not banging no more. But the jiu-jitsu, I continue. Yeah. A lot of no-gi stuff right now, rash guards, fight shorts. I don't want to have the gi on anymore, Scott, you know?
Yeah.
So much. I mean, once every few weeks, maybe a little bit, but work with the Marines a bit too, still, you know, looking at videos.
Oh, yeah? Tell us about that.
I'm a certified Marine Corps instructor, hand-to-hand, McMaps guy. So we're looking at a lot of video, real-world concepts, you know. Probably can't go too into that stuff, but you know, just because it's my, you know, I shouldn't be talking too much about it. But we're looking at that stuff, looking at videos, real world, you know, helmet cam, Humvee, lapel camera type stuff, footages, and adapting different martial arts to what could have maybe worked. So yeah, we're doing a lot of that stuff still. So it keeps my mind really engaged, Scott. You know, but I love the martial. I train every day. Every day, though, and then I'm in the ocean in the ice bath. I live on a lot of ice too, I have to say.
But look, John, I better let you go, but it's a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. Thanks for all you've done throughout the years to entertain us with the art of action, and long may it continue, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Scott. To the art of action. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And you keep too, right? We need because we're going like this. Thank you, sir.
I'll keep trying. Thanks,
Absolutely.
John.